Now, moral obligation, the word moral is one that turns everybody off. This country don't have morals anymore. And let me give you an example of it, and this is why. Let's say you go to a Coke machine or a Pepsi machine or whatever, a dispensive machine. You put enough money in there for one soda, and 2 or 3 drop out. Now, you only put money in there for one. You just take the one that you paid for and walk away, or you take them all?
Most people would take them all.
But why would they do that?
They figure, hey, it must be my luck.
Okay, well, that's what the book talks about. Also, there's a story in the book that says, and I actually set it up. I was able to set it up in Walmart, King Soopers, and Safeway. I set it up in an aisle. I dropped a $20 bill on the floor, made sure there's nobody in that aisle, and then sat down at the end of the aisle and watched somebody come down. And it's so funny how they would see that, their eyes would see that $20 bill on the floor. What do you think they would do? What was the first thing they would do?
Step on it, hide it underneath their foot so they could look, and then act like they're looking on the shelves. And look this way, look that way.
I would say just look around to see if anybody else saw them.
Exactly. That's the first thing that they do. Look and see who's watching. And then do what you just said they would do. Put their foot on it and go through the shelves and everything else. But they'd pick it up and put it in their pocket, their purse or whatever. And when they got to the end of the aisle, then I would ask them, hey, by any chance, did you see any money, or like a $20 bill or whatever on the floor? And guess what they would say?
Well, no. They would say no. Yeah.
They would say no. Except for this one older lady who actually picked it up, turned around and walked up to the front counter, the customer service, and turned it in. And I stopped and I talked to her and said, well, why'd you do that? Well, she said, it didn't belong to me. I said, but you turned it in to the customer service there. What do you think they're going to do with it? She says, that's not my problem.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm thinking, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, same thing out in the parking lot.
Wait a minute. How much money did you lose doing this?
I didn't go nuts with it, but it was interesting. I go out in the parking lot and drop same thing as you just before you walk into the entrance, dropped a $20 bill, and watch people. Some people were driving in their car would spot it. Guess what they would do? They would stop that car, jump out of their car, and run over and pick it up. Other people was walking into the front entrance. They'd look at it and just stare at it like it's trying to summons it.
Mm-hmm. Get over here. Where's the wind? Blow it over here.
They didn't really want to go over and pick it up.
If it blows to me,
it's mine.
Yeah.
Okay, the story goes on a little bit. It goes a little bit deeper than that. There's this lady who worked in this office building, and it's along pretty much the same principle, where it's lunchtime. She went down to the ATM. She's going to put her money in, or her card in and stuff, and get some money for lunch. She goes down there and didn't realize that somebody had already started a transaction and didn't finish it. But anyway, she put in, and she was only asking for $20, and out came $200. So she takes the money, she goes back upstairs to her office, and she tells her friends about it. What should I do? And they're telling her, now, first of all, why would you ask your friends about it? There's something about asking somebody about what you should do. This is the part about moral obligation. You have a moral obligation to who first?
Yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
So yourself is already telling you what you should do.
So she's trying to get the approval of her peers.
Exactly. Which she did, and she even goes to her boss and asks her boss about it. Says, that's not your problem. I mean, that machine belongs to somebody else. It's not your problem. It's their problem. So she stashes it. A couple of days later, the people who owned the machine come up there with HR, and she gets fired over it because got her for stealing money. And she said, I didn't steal it. I told everybody about it. But what did you do with it? Well, you stashed it. Well, that's stealing. So she got fired. Now, most people would say, now, wait a minute. Would you go to that extent? Same way with those cans of soda in the machine. You take them all? That $20 bill on the floor, would you take it? And even though you know, that's why you looked around, because you knew it didn't belong to you. But yeah, that didn't stop you. So is one more of a hard case than the other? To me, they're the same.
This reminds me of that story. I hate to say this, but it reminds me of the story of Yaqub, the Jewish guy, now Israeli guy, who was in the Palestinian home, who said, they said, hey, you're stealing these people's home, the Palestinian home. And he said, well, if I don't take it, somebody else is going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
A little to the extreme, but yeah, it's a similar story.
It's the same mentality.
Well, the story goes in a little bit deeper as well. This couple, this woman, she was from Mexico. She meets this Italian American. And they get married, and they give their vows to each other that they would stay with each other till death do them part. Now, you've already said your moral obligation goes to yourself first, unless you give it away, right? So they gave their ties to each other and said, till death do us part. We will honor and stay with each other. But you don't know the future. But the story goes on where he goes out with a bunch of his buddies and was drinking. He decides to get up and go home. Gets in his car and starts to drive home. Gets in a serious car accident to where he is paralyzed from his waist down, or from his shoulders down. And the doctors tells her, you have a choice here. You can either pull the plug on him now, because he will not be able to take care of himself for the rest of his life. So the doctors come to her and says, you can pull the plug on him now if you want. So her parents and his parents come to her and says, it's okay if you do that. I'm going to let you know it's going to be very difficult for you to take care of him. But I gave him my oath, till death do us part. Does that oath work for both of you, or did you make that mistake, or did he make that mistake? So she decides to stay with him. So once he comes to, and he finally rehabilitates enough to where he's in a wheelchair. There's nothing he can do for himself, but he's mad. He's pissed off. He tells her, if it was me, I would not allow you to live like this. This is not life. This is not what I want. And when his friends come over and see him, and they kind of pity him because now they knew him before and they see what he can do now, and, it's kind of pity. He says, this is miserable. I don't want to live like this. Since you allow me to live like this, I'm going to make your life just as miserable as mine. And he does that. He makes her life miserable. As the story goes on, he gets an infection, and he's in critical condition again. Doctors come to her again and say, we're not so sure he's going to make it this time. He can be in there for 3 weeks, 2 months, a year. But it's up to you. What do you want to do? And her parents come to her again. Says, whatever you decide you want to do, we'll stand behind you. His parents come to tell her the same thing. What do you think she did this time?
pushed him down a hill in San Francisco on his wheelchair. No, since we're talking about morals, it was her own personal morals. I would guess that she stuck with him.
She pulled the plug.
Really?
And this is why.
Dum dum. Plot twist.
This is why she decided to do that. Because, again, as you said, your first obligation is to you. Do you want to live like this? She didn't make the mistake. She didn't choose this. So now, if her life is going to go on, because she brings him back again, and like he already said, he's going to make her life miserable, which her life was miserable. So this time, before, when she decided not to do it, she got pissed off at her parents and his parents for saying, go ahead and pull the plug. Oh, she was angry with them, would not talk with them for months. For months, she didn't even respect them or talk to them. Now she realized that it's not about him anymore. It's about me. What about me? Do I want to live like that? If I pull the plug, am I pulling the plug on myself? Or am I pulling the plug on him?
Well, it sounds like he made it clear, too, that...
Yes, he did.
That why did you do this?
Right.
Why did you keep me living like this?
Right. Well, she did it because she made an oath.
Yeah.
But that oath can't tell the future.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what that book is about. Now, move right into Afro-Latin music and dance. Traveled to 18 different countries and understand that there is no such thing as Latin music.
Now, unpack this correctly, Gary, because you blew my mind with some of this and some of the origins. And so please explain this well, because this just blew my mind. I had assumptions, and I was completely wrong.
Well, most people call Latin music Mexican music. Well, the origin of Latin, the reason they call it Latin music, Latin comes from Egypt, is the languages, what they call the Romance languages. There's 5 languages that come directly from Latin. One is Spanish, French, Portuguese, Romanian, and Italian. Those are what they call the languages from Latin. Now, all of those cultures are found in South America. So rather than call it South American language, they call it Latin Americans. Then the music that they got when they took with them, now Egypt is in Africa. That music has been going on all the way back to Egypt, all the way back then to the Egyptians. That doo-doo bop, doo-doo bop, that's nothing new. And the salsa uses that big time. Cha-cha-cha, bachata, they use that. And all that is a human's heartbeat. That's what makes it so romantic. The romantic languages. That doo-doo bop, you hear it in all different forms, but it's still there. But claves is what they use for that music. That doo-doo bop is a clave. Where does a clave come from? Again, it comes from Africa. The witch doctors used to use that to talk to the animals. When they hear that clave, they would freeze. Because they had that power back then. Believe it or not. When I first heard that, you guys are nuts. You're nuts. But you go to any part of Africa, you will see. They understand that. You take that and you just start playing with it and watch how people stop and stare at you. They kind of back away from you, too.
Why did they back away from you?
Because that's what witch doctors would use.
Oh, okay. This episode is brought to you by the Josh Henry Workshop, where craftsmanship meets purpose. Whether you're in the kitchen slicing up dinner, out in the woods, or just need a reliable everyday carry, the Josh Henry Workshop has you covered. Every knife is handmade and hand-forged in the good old USA in North Carolina by a veteran-owned small business that puts heart, heritage, and pride into every blade. Michael, what do you think about the Josh Henry Workshop knives?
Jeremiah, I love the quality of the Josh Henry Workshop knives. These are not mass-produced tools. They are custom pieces built to last with real attention to detail. So if you're looking for a knife that works as hard as you do, check out the Josh Henry Workshop. You'll find your new favorite blade, and you'll be supporting a small business that truly cares about the craft. Visit the Josh Henry Workshop on either Instagram or Facebook at Josh Henry Workshop to learn more or to place a custom order today.
But the music, as it moved from Africa during the trade, the slave trades, to South America, to northern part of America, they brought their own music and dance with them, their own version of it. And that total mix is where you get, for an example, like a cha-cha-cha comes from Cuba. But that same cha-cha-cha in the Dominican is called bachata. It's the same music, almost the same steps, but they will say in Cuba, no, that's different. Say the same in the other country, no, it's not the same music. But you listen to it, you become a musician and you play it and you say, wait a minute, this is the same music. You dance it to the same thing. You put your own style, cultural style in it, but it's the same steps. Some use their body more than others. Same way, remember when the tambourine came popular? Who was the first person to use a tambourine?
Who?
You're not going to believe this. It goes all the way back into the biblical times when God ordered Moses to bring his people out of Egypt. Moses' sister was dancing and playing a tambourine.
I don't know the history of a tambourine. I mean,
yeah, it's right there in the Bible. It says she was dancing and playing an instrument, and that instrument was called a tambourine.
Okay.
So it was always associated to a woman. So when Mick Jagger started playing a tambourine, most people thought he was a woman because that was the instrument of a woman.
I think people thought Mick Jagger was a woman for other reasons too.
Yeah, well,
he had the body of a skinny woman. Remind me what a tambourine looks like.
It's a ring,
Okay.
and around the edges it has little metal discs.
Oh, the like.
Smack against your hand. Yeah.
Michael's a musician.
I'm a magician.
Magician.
It's funny. I was just having a conversation with my brother the other day. We were at a show at Red Rocks, and in between the bands, they were playing reggae music, and we were having a conversation about how reggae music is so rhythmically reliant that it's hard. You can't really break it. It all kind of sounds the same because if you shift outside of the rhythmic, the one ands and the three ands, then it's not reggae anymore.
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about because when most dance instructors teach somebody to dance salsa, they do the 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. Now, first of all, are you dancing to the dance? Or are you dancing to the music? Because in that music, there's 8 beats. And there's 8 strong beats. So if you do 1, 2, 3, what are you doing with the 4? If you're doing 5, 6, 7, what are you doing with the 8? You've got to be moving to all 4 of those beats. But I see why they do it that way, because they're teaching you to dance to the dance, not dance to the music. Which came first, the music or the dance? The music. So you got to teach them to dance to that music, because when the music stops, you can always tell. When the music stops and they're still dancing, they're dancing to the dance steps.
Yeah.
So have you heard that some of the origins of Latin music came out of Africa, Egypt?
All of it came out of there.
Yeah, I haven't heard that specifically, but it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I play the drums. So when you learn, like, if I want to play Latin music, there's certain rudiments or certain rhythms that you would play that, as long as you're playing that, you're playing Latin music, you know? So it's very rhythmically based. So it makes sense to me that you say that it goes back beyond, current day, like way back to Africa where, we're using more drums or clavas or things like that.
But Latin music is not what they call Mexican music. You don't go to Mexico to find Latin music, because that is Mexican music. That's their own version of Latin music. That's what it is.
They're all iterations.
Right. They tailor it to their culture, which is okay, which is perfectly okay. That's why it forced me really to understand the music to become a musician. I play the drums, I play the guitar, I play the organ, I play all these different, anything I get my hands on, I can play it by just listening to the music. I don't know how to read music, but all I have to do is to listen to it, hear the progression, and know pretty much how to do it, how to play it. Because everybody has their own little progression. Now, Jamaican music, they have their own style where they use the steel drums. They say it's not Jamaican music unless it has a gyro. I say, well, wait a minute, I've heard a lot of music without that. So no, it's not.
What's a gyro?
It's like a guitar. It's like a guitar, but they don't call it a guitar. It's a little bit different. It's got a bigger bass to it. It's almost like a smaller version of a stand-up bass. But it's not a bass because it's a guitar.
Does it have a smaller... What do you call that part of the guitar? The
neck on it?
The neck?
The neck?
It can. Some of them do and some of them don't. No, there's different styles of it. But it's the sound that it makes that they go after. It's a different sound than like you would use like a banjo. It's not a sound like a banjo. Not a sound like a regular electric guitar. It's a little different. It gives you a different tone, a different pitch that goes with their culture. It's a cultural thing.
I was talking to one of my buddies this past weekend. He was telling me about a Middle Eastern guitar that's kind of like that, and it has a big, like, the body of it is big, like kind of like a half egg.
Right.
And
I know what you're talking about.
A sitar?
Yeah. A sitar?
I don't remember. I'm looking it up. I don't remember what those look like, but that's a Middle Eastern guitar-like instrument.
Yeah. You
see that in India and Pakistan all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was something like that.
Something like that.
Yep.
Kind of looks like half an egg.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not the one he was showing me, but okay. So it has the bigger body. I don't know what you call that part of a guitar. Sorry.
Yeah, it's the body.
Sorry, I'm not a musician.
You might have been looking at. He might have been talking about something different, but this is a sitar.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and it gives you a totally different sound.
So yeah, man, that's interesting. So the book talks about the origins of Latin music.
Right, where it came from, how it was established, who really made it popular, and it's the music and dance now that makes it so popular, because people like to get out and dance. And if you're standing in like a club or whatever and they start playing their music, it moves you. In other words, it gives you a desire to move. You can't just stand there and listen to salsa. You start, it moves you.
Oh, I'll stay still. You don't know me. I'm not a dancer.
You're not a dancer.
You don't need to be. That's where the music comes from. The music entices you to move, and it's those movements that makes the dance what it is.
Yeah, I was at a wedding Friday. It was like it's kind of like the bachelor side of it's kind of a celebration before the wedding on Friday, and they had music and dancing and all that stuff. And yeah, I'm not the guy. I don't dance. But I don't know.
But you do like music, though, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So you still enjoy listening to it.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. There's some salsa music that you, well, for an example, just, plain and simple, Black Magic Woman. You've heard that, right?
Yeah. I'm a
Okay.
black magic, or
Yeah.
you're a black magic
That
woman.
is
Yeah.
salsa at its best.
Really?
That's salsa music. Don't want to call it that.
It's classic rock, that song, right?
No.
Technically?
Yeah, technically,
Yeah.
but it's only, they call it classic rock because during the era that came out, the time frame in which it came out, salsa was not popular.
I'll have to listen to that song
popular
again.
at all. But
Yeah.
you go to these clubs, you're going to hear that music played constantly and people up dancing salsa.
You're talking
to it.
about like the rhythm of the song.
Right.
It's like salsa or
Yeah.
influence.
Got a black magic woman, and also dun 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 dun. All cultures seem to have picked that up and used it.
Yeah.
That progression.
Yeah, there's a lot of shared influences with anything. Food, music, culture, just in general. I think it's a great thing. You see people get upset. They're like, oh, cultural appropriation and this and that. And you're like, geez, man, it's better when things mix and people share and people grow things.
Like the spice of life.
Right.
A little spice in it. Yeah, that's what Santana did. When Santana first came out, people didn't like him. You know why? First of all, the name.
Oh.
Santana, that Mexican music. I listened to that.
Yeah.
No, just listen to the album. Forget the name. Just listen to the album.
Right.
And, yeah, that would blow you away.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's salsa music. That's salsa.
So you must enjoy dancing, Gary.
I told you, I had to learn how to do it all. I had to learn how to do the proper dance steps to salsa.
Yeah.
Bachata to salsa to cha-cha-cha. All those steps and stuff for me to understand what the people are going through and why they listen to it.
Yeah.
You can actually, if you learn how to do any of those steps, you can dance to anything.
Yeah.
I mean, anything. All the music seemed to come right in place. And you have a better appreciation for the music, too.
Absolutely. And what, say the book again, the full title of the book? Because
Afro-Latin Music and Dance. It's Afro-Latin Music and Dance. It's
I thought the book was called Rhythm, but it says Rhythms in the title, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, Afro-Latin Rhythm and Dance.
By yourself,
Yep.
Mr. Gary Sowell, right? Yeah.
And like I said, I traveled all over trying to discover where'd the music come from. Well, go to Egypt. No, you got to be kidding me. So I go to Colombia, I go to Brazil, I go to Cuba. They're all saying the same thing, the origin of this music, because we are all from there.
So they're saying it comes from Egypt.
Right.
Wow.
So finally, when I go to Egypt, there it is, right there. And I'm saying, really? All these different cultured people started in Egypt. And where is Egypt? Africa.
Yes, it is.
Well, the average person don't know that.
That Egypt's in Africa?
Yeah, really.
Man.
Yeah, that's.
I'm
I
telling
have
you.
talked to quite a few people that don't get included as part of Africa.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, no.
Well, yeah, it's in Africa.
But even Africa itself is never always called Africa. Egypt was never really called Egypt. Egypt, the word Egypt in Hebrew means bondage. So when God told Moses, pull my people out of bondage, he's talking about Egypt. Same way with Egypt today. Egypt's original name was Kinnock. In Hebrew, Kinnock means black lands, black pharaohs. That's why when you go to Egypt and you see these people on the wall, they all have black heads.
Yeah.
They're black pharaohs.
Yeah, I've always maintained that I don't believe that the Egyptians that are there now in Egypt.
They're not, because remember, look how many wars that were fought and took over them.
Yeah.
They're not the original Egyptians today that live there now. They're not the original. They're different.
Well, I said that not because of that, but that's a good point. I said that because, or I say that because you don't see any of the teachings or the knowledge or anything that was had, you know, at the time when they built the pyramids and built all those structures. You don't see that. There's nothing in that community of people that has that knowledge at this point.
It got destroyed.
Yeah, that happens.
Because in Ghana, there's actually a city in Ghana that had more technology than in Egypt. If we tried to figure out how they built the pyramids, if you went to Ghana and tried to figure out how they built that city, that would blow you away too. Because that movie, The Black Panther, touched on it, quite a bit of it.
I forgot that you mentioned this to me before, and I just remembered right now. And this is not the thing that I wanted to talk to you about. The other thing you blew my mind with, but this is another one.
Yeah.
Please continue. I'm not even going to say anything.
I mean, when the Europeans went over to Africa, over to Ghana, they destroyed that city, and they killed all the they destroyed all the technology. They destroyed and killed all the scientists, the people that had built that city. That city had the most technology. If you were trying to figure out how the pyramids were built, and if you saw their city, I don't need to know how those pyramids were built. Look at this. Look at the technology. The Europeans looted that city totally, took away all their knowledge. But yes, there is actually the theory behind the Black Panther was that that kryptonite-like rock that gave them the power.
The vibranium.
Yep. That was real. Talks about it.
Hold on, Gary.
It does, and it even talks about it in the Bible. Now think about this: gold and silver and diamonds and stuff. Where did that come from? If the Bible talks about it, it's in heaven. But who made it popular? Who made it worth its worth? Where did that come from?
Well, I think gold, because of its rarity, even though it's not that rare, there's actually a lot of, theoretically, there's a lot of gold in the planet. It's just deep in the planet.
But how did it get to heaven?
I don't know. Yeah, I think that was maybe a metaphor of how the riches that we feel, the elements and the things that we feel, that we believe that are rich, and, that's kind of what maybe I felt like that dictated in the Bible. But
talks about the pearly gates, the pearls,
right.
Pearly gates in heaven.
Again, same thing. I mean, the things that we adore, and we hold as being valuable, and as things that people want: gold, silver, pearls, diamonds, all these things. But the vibranium.
But
please, expand on that.
Okay, now think about this. Between the two actually the two countries at that time, and the ones that had the knowledge, the ones that were living in the caves and stuff, they all were after one thing, and they were hiding it, that one thing from everybody as well. And they were saying if people found out the value of that, it would destroy it. It would destroy the earth, destroy the world.
So are you saying there's vibranium in possession of some people on this planet, or an element, or do they call it vibranium, or is it a vibranium type of element?
It was type of element.
Okay.
That was real.
Okay, and doesn't have the extent
Gives you
of
power.
To the extent that was on in the Black Panther,
Mm-hmm. What do you
or in
think?
Wakanda,
Right.
I guess.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, rather
You
than
think
the
somebody
Black Panther.
just overnight came up with that idea?
Well, I always think when I see a lot of things in movies or in people that some conspiracy theories are a little too far out, but there are some that come around full circle and years later and like, oh wait, that guy was right about that.
Yeah.
And there are some movies out there later on in life, it seems like things do advance to that point. I don't know if it's technology. Sometimes you'll see in movies like they'll outline something that later on gets to that point, advances to that point. But an element but wouldn't that be known by scientists and geologists?
Yeah, it was, but that knowledge was destroyed. Now, if you would see something like that today, you'd have no idea what it was.
Like the element?
Yeah. You'd just look at it and like a crystal, you look at it and say, that's pretty cool. That's neat. If you had no knowledge of what it could do, as far as, for an example, like before we used the atomic bomb, we had to design it, right? And we really had no clue when we dropped it how it would affect everything. It was an experiment.
You mean before we tested it? Because we did test them.
We tested it,
Yeah.
right.
Right. Yeah, because they put people out there to see. They had some soldiers, I think, or some employees or something. And they're like, hey, you guys go here. We don't know what it's going to do.
Right.
Yeah, and they had those guys sitting there. There's those famous films of those guys with the...
Right.
Sitting there and the wind comes and yeah.
Well, they really didn't know the devastation that it would create. Same way with that. You'll be looking at it and says, well, what can I do with it? How is it going to make my life better for me? You would have no clue.
So,
but somebody who had the knowledge of that would say, they would go after it.
So is this stuff able to still be mined? Do certain people have this in their possession? What do you...
That we
what are you
don't
saying?
know because we don't know what you're looking for. The same way with the, Hitler went after the, what's it called? The, where it's got the 10 Commandments in it.
Ark.
And everything, the Ark. Hitler went after the Ark. Why would he want the Ark?
Does it contain the power of God?
Right.
Yeah. Man, everybody's after this Ark. I hear that people are still looking for this
It's
Ark.
there. It's somewhere out there, man.
Because that technology and the knowledge of that still exists. But if they would have destroyed that knowledge and the idea of it ever existing, you wouldn't know about it. Same way with that. That's why when the Europeans destroyed it, they didn't know what they were destroying. And what it would do, how it will affect humans. Once that was all destroyed, its power was destroyed too. You may be walking on it every day and not know.
So where did you hear this from?
A lot of it I heard from when I did my travels. A lot of it was in Africa. I heard about Ghana. For me, Ghana is one of the most dangerous places in the world for an American. But I was able to talk to several different people who said, you talk about Egypt, and you talk about all the technologies and stuff. Look, Ghana had a city that was one of the most, has more technology than what you have in L.A., San Francisco, or anywhere else in the United States.
Really?
Yes, it's.
Michael, are you looking anything up over there, sir?
Yeah, Ghana had a city that was just that's why when the Europeans went over there, they destroyed everything.
When was this?
Oh, this back in biblical times.
Oh.
Yeah. When they went over there and Africa is one of the richest countries in the world, but yet it's the poorest.
Yeah, as far as natural resources go.
It's the richest natural resources.
Absolutely.
And the African people that were living on that at the time didn't know it was very rich until the Europeans came over and started taking it from them and destroying everything. And when they wanted people to work for them, they forced them to do it because they had weapons much greater than a spear or a blowgun. They had cannons. They had mass destruction weapons, and they were scared of them. You realize that Africans never really lived in the jungle at the very beginning. They were forced to live in the jungles. They lived in cities just like we have today.
So if they had cities like that, though, they would know about those. They would know about natural resources and how valuable they are, because if they built cities from these things, they would know.
Right. But those who do know keep it to themselves in fear of being destroyed.
Did you find anything out about the ancient city or anything in Ghana?
I mean, what I see here is it says that they mastered iron technology, developed complex agricultural systems, and established a sophisticated trade network centered around gold and salt. And this is ancient Ghana. What I read was that
the ancient city
of Ghana is not where Ghana is located today. At least that's what this is saying. It was in a different place. But it does says that they were very advanced in metallurgy, creating weapons. And there's a lot of evidence found at sites.
Yeah, that's where the Europeans got their weapons. But yeah, the whole technology behind that, it put thoughts in your head about, let me research this. Let me go and follow up on this. And those who do have the knowledge, they don't want to give it up.
Well, you're definitely putting thoughts in my head, and you're definitely making me want to research this.
Yeah, because they don't want to give it up.
I just want to know. I mean, that's crazy. You always wonder if you see a movie like that. You're like, where do they get ideas from? You wonder, because there's like, are they people who know things that we don't know? Or is there, did they come across something like, oh, I'm going to put this in a movie, and nobody even knows that it's real?
Well, it's just like Raiders of the Lost Ark. Where did they get their knowledge from?
Well, that's a big one. That's out of the, that's the Bible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you go to Egypt, you walk around the Egyptians, the way that they communicated is by drawing pictures, right?
Sure.
And pictures would tell you 1,000 different things, but their pictures were exact. When they drew a picture of a butterfly, an ant, a pregnant woman or whatever, you knew exactly what it was. You walk around
Here, I want to be able to make sure everybody hears you.
You walk around in the pyramids and stuff. You see a picture of a bunch of people standing in a circle, and one guy is pointing up to the sky. And in the sky, you see this little round disc, and you're saying, "What the heck is that?" But none of the other stuff on the wall that you saw came to your mind and said, what is that? And which forced me to do this. I went into the Bible, and in the Bible it says, there's nothing going on today that hasn't already been. So I'm looking at that, says, are you telling me man was already flying way back then? You go to the pyramids in Mexico, which is almost an exact replica of a airport. You have the main tower in the center, and you have these ports where if a plane came down, it, embanks themselves. You have that in Mexico. In Mexico, they got some rocks there that you cannot find anywhere else in Mexico. Where did they come from? And they are cut perfectly. It's like, go back to that biblical scripture says, there is nothing going on today that hasn't already been. That technology's been there.
Yeah.
It got destroyed.
Yeah, it's amazing how all these buildings, these structures exist, rather, and we don't know anything about them at all.
Right.
Which, okay, so then we can't act like we've been here from the beginning, because if we don't know about these structures, then we weren't there at that point.
Right.
At least with the knowledge and passing down any knowledge or anything. And yeah, it's mind blowing. And when I first heard about that flying saucer, the group of people pointing at that flying saucer, and there's apparently a picture of a helicopter in the Great Pyramids in Egypt. I thought, oh well, did someone go in there and chisel that in?
Me too. I thought the same thing. Somebody's messing with me.
But then I guess they said no. These are original.
If you look
pictures.
at the security and stuff when you go in there, where did that person, if that was done, let's say 300 years ago, where did they get that idea, the knowledge for that idea of that?
Right.
So
right.
That in itself, but you really don't want to go there because then if you start answering those questions, where's that going to lead you to?
Well, I guess someone could think of flying saucers even before we had airplanes. They could say, oh, they're aliens. I mean, you look up at the sky as a human being. You could have done that 1,000 years ago and said, I wonder if there's aliens,
Could have.
And how are they going to get here? Well, they can't, they have to come with something and something.
And you think the idea of a flying saucer, it still doesn't match up with what we have as vehicle, like airplanes or helicopters. They're just discs floating. So if it doesn't really make any sense to us how they would even fly, it's not like if we're making them up now or whatever. We couldn't have done that 100 years ago.
Can you look up the picture of the helicopter and the spaceship? Throw it on the screen over here. I want to see. It's been a long time since I've seen those. I can figure it out right now if somebody chiseled them. No, I'm just kidding.
Or they rubber stamped it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the crazy stuff, man. Yeah.
Yeah, see all of this. When you see that, first thing comes to mind, this is,
that's
somebody
nuts.
just did this. Yeah, they just did this.
Yeah, it's nuts. Nuts. I think there's a different picture, too, of a flying saucer.
Yeah, it's just a round disc. That's the one
that one looks like a boat on the top right. Looks kind of like a boat, like a yacht. Yeah, it's weird. So weird. What is that? If it's not a helicopter, what is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not really giving us anything.
No.
I mean, no.
Is that a real picture from there?
I don't know if that one's a real picture. It doesn't look like it to me.
No. That'd be too obvious.
Yeah.
Like the other ones, you're like, is that a helicopter? Are they trying to draw something else? Is it a tool?
Yeah.
But that's like the Jetsons. There they go. This is Jetsons meets the Egyptians.
Yeah, I'll keep looking over here, see if I can find the flying saucer.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, that helicopter one is the one that I seen. I don't remember that boat looking thing, but I remember that helicopter, and I thought there was a plane one. Maybe that was that image that was below that helicopter.
It looked like maybe just to the right of that one there was a plane.
Yeah, or that could be the flying saucer. But that helicopter, that one is a trip.
Yeah, this one over here kind of looks like an airplane.
Yeah, maybe
It's got
that's
a
the one they're
tail
saying
and a
is the
wing.
flying saucer. I thought there was a different one, but the helicopter is the one I remember. That one is like, what is that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Yeah, and this one looks like a boat.
It does to me.
Yeah.
Looks like a little boat.
That's the same picture.
Yeah, that's weird. So weird. If it's not a boat, what is it? I mean, if it's not a helicopter, what is it?
What were they using it for?
What were they trying to draw?
But did it actually fly though?
I don't know, man. So you've talked about vibranium. That one I forgot about, which you told me the last time we talked. But the other one that you got some explaining to do on, because I'm very interested about it, is you were telling me about Columbine, the Columbine incident.
Oh, the Columbine incident, where it was the start of all school shootings at the very beginning.
This is the one I didn't tell you about, Mike.
Oh yeah,
The
he told me there was something coming, and I was like, all right.
This one,
the
this
very
one
beginning
blew
of
my
all
mind.
school shootings was well plotted out.
Yeah.
Very well plotted out. And it was well plotted out because it had never happened before.
What do you mean it was plotted out?
Oh, they knew exactly what they were doing.
The two boys.
Yeah.
Okay.
They knew exactly what they were going to do
Right.
and what the idea behind it, on April 20th.
Before 20, the famous weed smoking day.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually, the famous weed smoking day, but the idea of the 24/20. If you know anything about the history of this school, when the school was built itself, what year was the school built in? What month? When did it first open? It would start putting dots together. So they used that 420 wasn't just for the weed. There was more behind it than that. But anyway, at the time, I was working at the lumber company. And these kids had come in several times getting certain items. Sometimes they'd have a note, sometimes they wouldn't. But I would ask them about it, and they said, well, this is a school project. Who's going to question that? But the items that they were getting and taking kind of made sense. But at the same time,
Who were the kids?
I can't even remember them. Klebold and Harris.
So it was those two boys, the ones that did the shooting. They were the ones coming to the lumber
They
to
come
the
in.
store.
Right. They
Okay.
come in and get the certain items that they were looking for.
And what were they buying?
Oh, they bought the propane. They bought nails, screws, and stuff for their
Bombs.
for the bombs and stuff. I'm not sure it's so much for the bombs, but they tried everything out first. This wasn't just a trial and error. They had already blown some stuff up
Okay.
in a field or whatever, wherever they went. They knew exactly the damage that it would do and what they were trying to do. But the whole idea of how they were going to do it and how it's going to take place, they were on the same page. And they knew at the end of all of it that they were trend setters. They were starting something. They weren't going to be the first, and it wasn't going to be the last. They knew this started an era because kids' mentality at that time, kids were, they weren't into sports anymore. When I was growing up, if you weren't in sports, there was something wrong with you. Kids at that time, during their era, they had too much free time. They weren't going to sports. They were out in the backyards riding their motorcycles and stuff. That wasn't the big deal. They were always plotting something.
In that era, when was that 90? When did that happen, Columbine? Was that 98 or 99?
I thought it was sooner than that.
Or 96? Was it 96?
99.
99. Yeah. 99. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And you were working at the store, so
Yeah.
were you dealing with these guys when they were coming?
I was a customer service guy. I'd see who came in and who went out. A lot of times they'd stop and ask me where certain items were. I knew where everything was, so I would see them all the time. Sometimes they were clean clothes kids. Sometimes they were wearing their big, coats and stuff, and the big black boots. But, and sometimes there was more than just the two of them. Sometimes they had a woman with them, a girl with them, whatever. So plotting it, they pretty much knew exactly what they were doing. But anyway, as it goes, as Columbine didn't have a very good reputation when it came to playing sports with other schools, Columbine was not allowed to play at Denver school. Was not allowed to play at Denver school because every time they'd play a Denver school, it'd break out in some type of a fight because Columbine had very little diversity.
Right, at that time.
Very little.
Yeah.
So, and even at the time, my kids had several friends who, my kids went to Bear Creek, and they had several friends who went to Columbine, but transferred to Bear Creek or to Alameda because of the diversity the issues they were having, especially the Asian girls, Asian guys. They didn't like Columbine.
Yeah, it's funny. Just recently, my boys, they're only 14 and 15 years old. Well, one's 13. He's about to turn 14. And they go to a good school in Lakewood. And I think it's a diverse school, but there's mostly white kids there. And they mentioned to me, they made a comment about Columbine, and they said, "Oh, Columbine." They're like, "Oh yeah, that's a white school." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Coming from you guys at the school that you go to, what do you mean that's a white school?" And I was like, "Really? I guess I didn't know that."
Well, there was a time where Columbine could only play Jefferson County schools because of, like I said, the school, after playing sports or whatever, they'd break up in some type of a fight.
But I thought some of the kids that had got killed during that thing, I thought wasn't there like an Asian kid and like a couple black kids or something that got killed during
Just
that?
one black, one Spanish kid. Rest were white.
Huh.
But
been a long time.
But they didn't care about that. That's not their total mission. It's that their idea behind it didn't matter who you were.
Mm-hmm.
They had a point to make, a mission to accomplish, and that's what they went after.
Right.
So, but what got me caught up in it is when it happened, I immediately told people about it, especially the boss it's called Hugh and Woods at that time. That those are the same kids.
Yeah, I remember Hugh M. Woods. Yeah.
Same kids that came into our store. And he said, "Gary, don't say that. Don't say nothing." I said, "Well, but they are." He says, "I'll show you on the computer the stuff that they bought."
Yeah.
"Yeah, I can show you all this." He says, "Oh, well, maybe you should tell somebody else." But I don't want to hear it.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So I did. Which was a mistake because once the media got a hold of it.
Here's the part, Gary. I just want to tell Michael. Here's the part, or he's gonna get to the part.
It's coming.
He's yeah. Go ahead, Gary.
Once the media got a hold of it, and heard that they had come to a Human store to get a lot of the items, Human Woods was sanctioned with 13 of the families filed suit against them. Now, they had a dilemma. They had good attorneys. They said, there's two things we can do. We can go ahead and go to court, or we can deem that this guy is lying about it. He don't have any proof, but I did have proof. They didn't know that. It says, we just say he's lying about it. Those kids never came into our store. So that's what they went to with, because Hume Woods immediately after that, they filed bankruptcy and closed all of 13 stores, every one of them.
Yeah, they used to be a big chain.
Yeah, they filed.
Was it because I never heard it was because of that they closed?
Yeah, the lawsuits.
Really?
Wow. Just for selling, like you said, it was like screws and bolts and.
But how would they know?
Well,
it's crazy, right?
They knew because I said it.
No, I mean, how would they know what these kids are going to use that stuff?
Yeah,
for?
That's what I said.
If it's not like when you weren't selling them gasoline and orange juice, or whatever.
They could be building. They could be building a treehouse.
Yeah, like what?
And have barbecuing.
How are you supposed to know as the person behind the counter just selling?
It didn't matter. It was such a sensitive thing that went on at that time.
For sure.
People were in shock.
For sure.
I mean, even the school district went into shock over it. Oh, he's lying about that. This school has never been sanctioned from Denver schools. Oh, yeah. Well, and we don't have any problems with racial. Well, apparently you did, because they even said they're looking for this black dude. Let me shoot him. Let him. And they're fighting over who's going to shoot him.
Who is? The parents? The family?
No.
The
two boys,
the shooters.
Oh.
They were arguing over who was going to shoot him.
Where?
In Columbine.
At the school?
In the school, right.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So it was a big deal, but the school district couldn't adhere to that or admit it. They had to deny it one way or another because it didn't look good on them. And it was so sensitive at the time that this had never happened. Now remember, 13.
Here, just swing that a little bit that way. There you go.
A lot of kids were shot. And matter of fact, the police department, when they did show up, they refused to go in because they said they were outgunned.
Right. I remember that.
Totally outgunned, which was... But that's what they were trained to do, is go in, and hide out until they're finished shooting everybody.
So back to your situation in this.
My situation was of the lead police officer at the time. He was on the news and he said, within 24 hours, we're going to have somebody arrested. They couldn't find nobody to arrest. So it came my way. Well, he lied about this. There's a law that says you can't give false information to a police officer. So I was arrested for that.
Arrested for saying that they came and purchased these items at Hume Woods.
Right.
And then, so they were saying at that time that you're lying about that?
No, Hume Woods turned around and said, no, they didn't come into our store. Gary's lying about it.
Sure,
they were trying to protect themselves.
But the police arrested you because of that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. But then they went and talked to all the other employees that were around me that knew that they were in there too, and the company put a gag order on them. They couldn't talk about it. In order to uphold the police arresting me. Now, if the police would have went to each one of those and said, yeah, Gary would know. If anybody would know and they came into the store, he would know. But they couldn't even say that.
So the way Gary told me about this story the first time, you remember, Gary, you said, how many people do you know that have been, this is what you told me.
Right.
How many people do you know that have been arrested because of the Columbine shootings? And I said, nobody. And He said, oh no, you said how many people?
Right. And you said, oh, maybe.
I said zero.
The parents.
Or I said maybe the parents.
Right.
Yeah, maybe. I don't remember, but I think they were kind of in some hot water, right? And you said no. You said I'm the only one that's been arrested behind the Columbine shootings. And I said, whoa. I said,
he just dropped a bomb on me.
I said, stop talking. Save it for the podcast. Don't tell me anymore.
The only one.
So this is the first time I'm hearing the story about the Hugh Woods and that they purchased the items there, or some of the items. And this is the first time I'm hearing this story.
So, and then basically because that the police chief or whoever he was made a promise.
Right. Somebody
made a public
promise.
Under a lot of pressure from a lot of families.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was I mean, I at the time I was, I don't know what I was, 5th grade or something like that.
Didn't you go to Columbine High School?
No, I didn't go to Columbine.
Oh.
I went to a private high school in Denver. So I never crossed paths with anybody from Columbine, or our school never interacted with them. But it was still shocking,
I thought who was telling me they went to Columbine? That wasn't you?
Not me.
I don't know. A lot of people have gone to Columbine. Yeah. Yeah, Gary. So how long were you arrested for?
Maybe 3 hours. Because a company that I work for, Hugh Woods, they hired an attorney just for me, to protect me.
So they stabbed you in the back, and then they hired an attorney.
Well, it was a play. You have to understand.
Yeah.
There's 13 families that filed suit against them.
Right.
At that time, they're going to end up closing their doors anyway. So they just filed bankruptcy and closed up.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't see.
That's how it's sensitive it was at that time.
Purely sensitive, because you can go to Home Depot and buy the same stuff. What's Home Depot going to do? Shut down? If somebody tries to sue them, they're going to say, look, we don't know what people are going to do with our products.
Once they purchase it and they go out the door, that's their problem, not ours.
It's kind of true.
Well,
yeah. Someone could buy a steak knife and go kill someone with a steak knife. What, is that company responsible? I don't think so.
Well, the kids did have a set of keys to the school, too, because they brought in the master keys that said on it, right there, it says, do not duplicate. They brought those in with them, and I said, yeah, we went ahead and copied those because they had a note. They had a note from... I don't remember I told them I don't remember what teacher it was, but they had a note. Well, can you produce that note? No, you're not going to take the note from them.
Man.
Yeah, and that makes, I remember it because my high school, my mom and my dad worked at my high school. And there were multiple times where I took keys to get copied that said, do not duplicate. Because you still got to get them duplicated somewhere.
Yeah, everybody does it though. Same thing with like work and stuff. Sometimes you have keys that say do not duplicate. And when I have a building I bought down on Colfax, a commercial building, and it's got some of those keys, but everybody copies them anyways.
But it was so sensitive at that time. That was, oh, you did what? Oh, you copied keys? Right there, that should be against the law. But there's no law.
I'm just curious, where do you go get the do not duplicate keys copied?
Where do you get them copied at?
Like legitly, like because they say do not duplicate.
So when I worked in retail and we needed new keys, we had to order them from the source.
Oh.
So you'd order them from whatever your supplier for locks was, and they would send you newly cut keys with do not duplicate stamped on it.
Oh, that makes sense. So they have an account with you.
Right.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And you're in their logs as having that key.
Exactly.
Okay.
But they never questioned where the kids got the keys from.
Yeah.
That was never questioned.
I guess you could ding someone on a technicality on that. You're somewhat liable for doing it, but that's grasping at straws. That's like, come on, man. Everybody duplicates those keys. I could take a key that says do not duplicate, and I could probably get it 10 out of 10 places, if not 9 out of 10 places will duplicate it for me.
You can just go to Home Depot right now and it's got self-serve.
Yeah, they have those machines now. Yeah, Lowe's.
Self-serve.
Yeah, I use the one at Lowe's all the time. Because I use that one because it's you buy 2, you get 1 free. It's a better deal.
That's a good deal. Good to know.
Hell yeah. Yeah, what is the machine going to say? This is a do not duplicate key. They don't read that. They only read what you stick in there.
Yeah, you would think after Columbine they would have just stopped all of that. But they didn't. That's not what they were looking for. They had to do something. They were caught with their pants down.
Oh, and the pressure.
And the pressure,
Yeah.
they had to do
Need a scapegoat.
something. Yes.
So
They needed that.
did you actually have charges against you that
Yeah.
you had to go to court for?
No, I had to go to court, and I turned around and sued a few people over it as well, which I can't talk about.
Okay. Well,
No.
hopefully that worked out.
Well, it did, but it didn't. But my name was slandered all over the world. I
Really?
had people call me from all over.
Wow.
A lot of them were journalists themselves calling and saying, "Hey, I heard you were in this thing with Columbine with you, this and that and whatever." No,
What were the charges?
lying giving false information to a police officer.
Were the charges ever
Yeah,
dropped?
they were dropped.
They were dropped. Wow. So charges were dropped, and then you filed lawsuits against the people that slandered you.
Uh,
Wow. What a crazy time in our history, period. Just that first massive school shooting, mass school shooting. It's not the first school shooting, because when I was a kid back east, there were school shootings, but they were like outside, like another kid didn't like another kid.
Let's step outside. And
Yeah, there was kids getting shot. There was kids I
But
went to school with that had been
not
shot.
quite a few at one time, though.
No, not like that. No, this was all like one-offs. Yeah, not an actual in-school shooting.
indiscriminate, just
Right.
They weren't just after their students or after their teachers, whatever crossed their path
Yeah.
is what they were after.
Yeah, because before that, our schools back east had metal detectors. Yeah,
Really?
I went to school with kids that had already been shot. I remember one of my friends, he didn't have an arm. He got shot with I think they said it was a MAC-10 or something. When he was a
he
kid.
got shot by a mob boss or something.
I don't know. It was the other kids. It's crazy. Wow. Yeah, he was missing an arm from it was like half the arm, like from the elbow down, somewhere around here. His arm ended.
Wow.
It's crazy. Yeah.
He got shot in the arm, and they were like, just cut it off.
I think it got blown apart.
Really?
Yeah.
Back 10? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's just so there was when I was a kid going to school back east, there was kids got shot, and there was some dangerous parts, and there was some stuff that was related to school sometimes, but nothing like that. That was obviously the first.
It was the timing of it. It
Yeah.
was the timing was perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect timing. Perfect
And then
time of the date. It was all. I mean, these guys masterminded. It wasn't something that's just put together overnight.
Yeah.
They knew exactly what they're doing, and I'll bet they took 3 to 4 months to prepare for it.
Man, imagine the mind, the state of mind you have to be in to commit to something like that. Like, I would hope that if there's any kids out there that ever feel that way, that they just they find someone to talk to, man. Because that is just nuts when you get to that point in your mind where you think the only resolution is to do something like that. That's crazy, man. Like, you just gave up. You just gave up on life. You gave up on anything. Your dreams. I mean, you're a child. You haven't even started. You just started living your life. You haven't even got out there and done anything yet. I mean, if life is so bad where you're at right now, you need to get away from it. If it's your family, if it's the town you're in, whatever's got your mind in this state, get away from it. Like you travel the world, and you looked at, hey, I want to know what happened in Vietnam. Hey, I want to know where's the origins of Latin music. But there's got to be something out there for them where they can just get out and say, hey, I don't like what's going on here. I need to get out and do what I want to do, rather than doing that. It's crazy.
Well, I don't believe they gave up. I think society gave up on them and the people around them, because they were being pressured. You got to think about it. A average normal kid don't do something like that. Something prompted them with that much hatred for everybody around them. Other kids, some of them were their classmates. That hatred to destroy them as well as themselves. Something groomed them for that. It wasn't, like I keep saying, it didn't happen overnight. They
I understand
prepared
that.
themselves for
I understand that part of it. There was the talks of the bullying and them not being accepted and things like that. But I mean, I was a person that I lived in Connecticut, and well, let me back up. I lived in Arizona. I was a kid, and I went to school there. Then I went to Connecticut, went to school there, and now you're talking. Now I'm getting into first grade, second grade. Now I go to Texas. Now I'm in. Maybe that's where I went to first grade, second grade. Then moved back to Connecticut. Now I'm in second grade, halfway through the year, and then third, fourth, fifth grade. Then I moved somewhere else. I went to California. Now I'm in a different school. And in every one of these states, I was in multiple towns. So I went to that many different schools. So I never was in a school where when I walked into class, you know how it is with new kids. Don't know anybody.
Right.
All these kids know each other. They came up from preschool, first grade, second grade, whatever. Mm-hmm. Most of them know each other. And there's some kids that are new. And I was always the new kid. I never had friends. So, and I had big ears when I was a kid. So, that was the one thing, oh, look at his big ears and whatever. It got old pretty quick because it's like, oh, yeah, I heard that in the last school. But it's like I never did I think that I would, like, want to kill these kids, And I don't know. I get it. I get that they were bullied, and I get that they weren't accepted, and they had their own little weird things going on that other people made fun of them. And so, fine. Fuck Columbine. Fuck Littleton, Colorado. Leave. Like, screw them. Those aren't people you want to be around. But to kill people, that's... You don't think that's given up?
Well, I do as an adult, but for a young teenager, we're thinking it's the end of the world for them,
right?
Or they want to be in control of their world.
Yeah.
I'm tired of having people tell me what to do, what not to do, and they set their own program. But the teachers themselves tried to put the blame on the parents, and if you go back and look at their grades at that time as well, look at how they were associating with other students and stuff. The writing was on the wall.
Yeah, you got a point. You got a couple good points you made. You're right. I'm coming from a almost 50-year-old perspective, right? And that's easy to be mature and say, "Oh yeah, here's the answers, kid. You got it all figured out. I went through hard times when I was a kid, and here's how. Look at me now."
Right.
Yeah, good point. But at that time, how would you have handled that situation? Yeah. And the second good point I think you made too, which I see and it frustrates me, is sometimes with teachers. And I know the argument, right? They make it's not their responsibility. They're not raising the kids. They're just there to teach the kids.
Right.
But if they see things, it's like a village. It takes a village, right? And there's little pieces of course, the parents are going to see. Then the uncle's going to see. Then the neighbor's going to see, and that the teacher's going to see. They're all going to see things from different perspectives. So I hear you on that. Like teachers can say, "Hey, this is what I see. Hey, communicate with whoever, you know, that's in that child's lives. Hey, I'm seeing a couple things that you're probably not seeing because you're the parent and they're not going to display this in front of you. They're a little more free around me, and here's what I'm seeing. You know, what do you think about this? That's a great point. Yeah.
If they would have all been a little more active, especially the kids were outcast.
Mm-hmm.
Look at their grades. See what's going on. What's going on? You know, they had missed a lot of school. You know, stuff like that. But back then as well, the society was set to where we got to blame somebody for this. We're not going to accept any responsibility. We have to blame somebody, just like the police had to blame somebody. The teachers had to blame somebody. They went after the parents. They went after everybody except for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the student was in your class. What did you know about him? What did you say? What did you do? That's the key. What did you do? Nothing. So you allowed it to happen.
Yeah, accountability is a motherfucker. A lot of people, they don't like that word.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man. So we're sitting with the only arrested,
But not convicted.
not
But not
convicted.
convicted.
Let's make that clarification.
Yeah.
Man,
Man, that's wild.
well, Gary, great conversation, man. I love, like I said at the beginning of this, I love talking to people, older people, who have the experience of life and have done a lot of things, and it's always a great conversation. Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah. This is great.
Yeah, I really
Great.
appreciate you coming on, and man, again, happy Father's Day, and go enjoy the rest of your day.
Yep, that I will do. Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
as far as for my dad, the city of Lakewood put up a memorable for him. You can find it on the corner of Alameda and Pierce. On the sidewalk, they put up his legacy.
Alameda and Pierce. Okay, which corner?
Right on it'd be the southeast corner. Of the light.
Southeast corner. Okay, so that's the only corner that doesn't have a business on it.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right there.
Because there's the 7-Eleven, Home Depot,
Right.
McDonald's, Comfort Dental, and then that side doesn't. It's like a little parkish kind of walkway area.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Right there. Also, he was a Buffalo soldier.
Native American Buffalo
Oh,
soldier.
wow.
No. Black Buffalo soldier.
In the military?
In the military.
Oh, that's right. They did call them Buffalo soldiers.
in the
Yeah, because they have
military.
the Buffalo soldiers that are, I think, from the Cheyenne tribe,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and then they had the Buffalo soldiers that were they Army or Marines?
Army.
Army. Wow. Yeah. I'm sure you're proud of that. Proud of your father.
Yeah, I didn't know that until, a couple of years ago doing the research.
Wow.
When the research took me to England, and it came back and gave me my dad's history, his family's history. So why would England have his history? Because it comes from the Seminole Indians.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing. Yeah.
Amazing stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Oh, your books. Where can people find them? I seen them on Amazon.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, library.
They're not at the library. I went to the library.
You went to? They didn't have it. Did
Nope.
you go to the library at the Belmar?
I did.
They didn't have it.
Nope.
Mm.
Yeah. You better go talk to them.
Yeah.
But I did see it on Amazon. So Amazon, Barnes & Noble. And say the names of the books again.
Just One Moment in Time, Moral Obligation, and Afro-Latin Music and Dance.
Perfect. Thank you, Gary.
All right. Thanks
Appreciate
for having
it.
me.
Right on, man.
Okay.